Well, good morning and welcome to Being Your Own CEO. This is a success team that meets on a weekly basis here on Business Hangouts now. And we're here to share information, provide some support to one another by helping each other with the way we think about things and the way we do things, etc. And we do share a few laughs and so forth as well. So welcome all, and I want to, well, I guess we'll do the same thing that we normally do. Start with an introduction by each person, where you are, what you do, and any news that you might have. So let's see, Jay, how about you? You're on one. I always start on one end or the other. So, good morning, Jay.
Good morning, thanks. My name is Jay, and my company is Affiliate Resources Incorporated, and I help people just like you get started in the world of online marketing. Things that are new is I've actually just started a couple new Facebook retargeting campaigns for some clients, and I've found immense results from it. So I'm actually really excited to see it. And it's what retargeting is. It's where if someone were to visit your website, it drops a little suggestion to say, hey, this person visited your site, and then the next time that they go on to Facebook, they would see an ad, and the ad would be targeted based on what page they landed on your website. So if it was like services, your services page, then you do an ad specifically for that page. So it says, hey, did you know we have great services? Check it out. So, and it's been doing some small tests. It's been converting like crazy. It's actually really impressive. So,
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, so I'll be creating a lesson inside Wealthy Affiliate where I teach outlining how to do this. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
I'm thinking the same thing. Great.
Oh, there's so much I need to know about Facebook. I really don't get, other than what happens when people share with something with their family or whatever.
Right.
From an engagement perspective, I really don't get it.
It's like a vehicle accident. It's like one of those things where you're driving by and you always kind of you don't see what's going on. But that's it. It's a short, meaningless relationship. So beyond that, I think their ad platform is absolutely fantastic because you can target, you can set a certain demographic saying, well, I only want females between the ages of 30 and 45 who live in a certain area to view my ad, right? So that way it's, as you narrow down the demographic, the ad costs become cheaper. And it actually kind of goes into what we're talking about, finding the preferred method of communications, right? So.
Okay, right on. Yeah. Well, we really look forward. It's really great to hear that you're sort of developing wonderful new things. So that's great news.
Well, as we said in the green room, always cutting edge, right? Always trying to leading edge.
It's a lonely place.
It's a lonely world, though, and that's why my office is always empty.
Oh dear. So the next person in line is Craig. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. Fortunately, Jay, you have this window to the world.
That's good. That's true.
My name is Craig, and I run a company called Who Marketing. I'm in Western New York, and I help small businesses, local companies, with their online presence. And this week I've been picking Purple Heart out of my hands for several days.
Picking Purple Heart?
Yes, I picked up a stick in my shop that was Purple Heart, and it's very, very hard. It's like ebony, but it also is little tiny splinters, and all it took was 1 second. I've been picking the pieces out of my hand for a week.
Think of like split bamboo, you know, like tiny little shards.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought you said heart, H-E-A-R-T, but I'm thinking that's not what you said.
No, it's purple heart. It's exotic wood, and it's actually very beautiful once it gets exposed to the sunshine, because it actually turns a brilliant purple.
Wow.
Oh, lovely.
Right on. So this is in line with your new idea about woodworking, isn't it?
It's a new old idea. Yes, I was cleaning in the shop.
Right. So making progress, I guess, huh?
Oh yes.
Right. So glad you're here, Craig. And so next in line is Carlo.
Hi, I'm Carlos Savio in Las Vegas. Sorry. I'm a small business finance and management consultant, digitally fluent, self-taught web developer, proficient in several modern programming languages, been accessing the internet since 1992, and currently I operate a comfortably small digital marketing consultancy working with 6 to 8 clients at a time in 180-day cycles, teaching them how to outcompete locally in their online and offline marketing. As relates to new, I've got a whole list of things I'm working on. I got to keep checking them off, but I'm getting there. Nice to be here again.
I should also mention that Carlo has a black belt in keeping it real. So I had the honor to meet him when we were in Vegas, so he's a really good guy.
Thank you.
Oh, cool.
And in the green room, we did chat about what it's like to be on the leading edge, and well, we're going to probably cover this a little bit. You know, the demographics and the way we sort of look at the way we communicate. But we both decided that neither one of us fit the demographic very well. So. And sometimes I wish I could find a lot more like us. So, but I guess the world has got many kinds of people, and thank goodness for that. So, so glad you're here, Carlo, and Anne, you're here.
I
At the end
am.
of the line, and there are a few other people who said they were coming, so we may find that there are some people drop in as time goes on. So, but Anne, go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. I'm recovering from my cold. It's not great, but you know, going away. And it is a beautiful day in Victoria again. It's fabulous out there. My name is Anne. My company is Visionary Business Solutions. I work with small businesses, primarily construction companies. They are my favorite people. But I work with all kinds of small businesses, and I help them get organized, do their books, figure out how much money they're making, how they could make some more. And when I'm not doing that, I'm playing around with fabric and paint and all sorts of weird and wonderful things, because you know, if I could, I'd be in my studio more. And then I also do a little wealthy affiliate just for fun, and I finally got to actually listen live to one of Jay's broadcasts, and it was great. It was really good.
Yeah. And you also were on a video in Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
Jam.
That's right. Yes, I did a video with my friend Caroline.
Although I didn't see the video, I did see she did a different video, and I saw a screen cap, and it was one of those things where I had to lean in and go, "Is that Anne?" Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Those look like very comfortable jammies, by the way.
They were lovely jammies.
Yeah.
The concept is that it's primarily for women, and it's kind of like when you have a little slumber party and it's all girls and you're hanging out and the kind of things you talk about, you know, when it's just a couple, you know, 2 or 3 of you, and so we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like it was a lot of fun.
It was. My gosh, we couldn't stop laughing. It was hilarious. So. Yes, and apparently Lola Land might be, you know, doing a little PJ chat before too much longer.
Oh, very good. Sounds like she has very convincing ways to get people on camera.
It's easy to get me on.
Internet forever. Don't worry that it's going to be on that internet forever. Yeah, not to worry at all. So.
Bear that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to go on camera. I don't mind at all.
All right.
And so the person who did the video is Cheryl Ann Webster, and she has been a participant here in the past. So, yeah. So welcome here. And I did appreciate some of your tips that you gave on that little video about choosing clothes and how clothes are, women's clothing is sized and so forth. I thought it was useful.
Well, that's good. That was the point.
Right on. So I might just introduce myself. I'm Lowell Ann, and in my work style, lifestyle coaching and consulting, I really love working with solo entrepreneurs. I like to help them find direction and stay motivated and build systems that make them more efficient and make their work more enjoyable. And I like to host this as a support to solo entrepreneurs on a weekly basis. And I'm also do have a program that I call Beginner's Google for Business, and I've had a kind of an inquiry from a company to come and do something along that line shortly. And I'm in the middle of creating a course on networking. So I finally decided that after all the things that I noticed, that it's time to create a course on it.
Well,
so we'll see
you
what happens.
always have the best networking games at the host meetings.
Oh, the best, definitely.
Well, I think it's an important thing to be able to know how to do. So yeah. But it sure is hard to think up something new every month. Yeah. Well, something new every week here too. So, welcome everyone. And
talk to a teacher.
Sorry, say again.
Talk to a teacher. Some of the grade school games that they play can be modified.
Oh yes.
Working events.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah. Well, and in my old facilitation days, there were lots of icebreaker kinds of exercises that I sometimes pull out when I need to as well. So it's kind of fun. I thoroughly enjoy it. So this morning, I was hoping we could have a conversation about finding the preferred method of communication for our prospects, for our clients, etc. And as we were chatting about that in the green room, we did kind of touch upon the idea that each generation seems to have a preferred way. As I began to think about all of this, I started thinking about, all the different methods. And I guess the piece that falls out for me is, yes, I mean, we know that there's the personal touch, a handwritten note. There's texting, which is really immediate. There's social media, personal messages. There's face-to-face, such as what we're doing here with Hangouts or Skype. There's email, and there's phone, and there used to be fax, although there are some companies that are still doing that. And then there used to be just sending a piece of mail, a letter, and or I don't know, a flyer of some sort. So I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it, but the tricky part is to figure out what is the preferred way. And I guess one way would be to think about the age group, that the demographic group, I guess is maybe the better way to say it, and make assumptions that way. But from my experience, I'm not. I've been trying a variety of ways, and of course, everything we're hearing online is says, "Oh, email is it." However, I'm finding that most people don't respond to email. And I even heard somebody say in a meeting earlier that that she saw regarded receiving an email as an infringement on her privacy. And I asked her, what's on your business card? Do you have your email on your business card? Well, yeah. Well, why would you put your email on your business card if you don't want people to email you?
Yeah, yeah, totally true.
So I'm from a marketing perspective, I'm still really wrestling, and I just threw it out as a topic to see whether that's an issue for anybody else, and if
Laura,
yes.
was your friend's email address at AOL.com?
No. No, it was a bit email actually.
Maybe she didn't want solicitations.
Well, you see, I think that's what's happening. People don't want solicitations, or they don't want to be marketed to.
Sure, it's like the old days, the early days of the fax machines,
Yeah.
3-meter advertisements.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, you remember fax spam?
Oh yes, yes. It's terrible.
Well, it's actually still happening out there, believe it or not, because at a care center that I do some contract work with, they because the medical profession, doctors and nurses and all of that, still prefer using fax, if you believe it or not. And so they are still receiving all kinds of promotional stuff through fax.
They called that psychosclerosis.
Actually, you know, I'll tell you why they use fax. I just ran into this myself because my brother is a massage therapist, and so I do a little bit of admin to help him out. He's not the most organized person, very good at massage. And so we were communicating with the Ministry of Health here in BC about information, and they wanted to send me a fax. And I said, oh, you know, I don't have a fax. I haven't had one for ages. And she explained to me the reason that they still use fax is it's a lot more secure than email. So they do not want anything. They don't, if it has client information, if it has personal information, they want it faxed or mailed or communicated through their secure site, but they do not accept email. They don't send emails because it's so hackable. So that's why they still fax. It does seem very strange, but that's why.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. That's why a lot of government agencies still use faxes, just because it's a one-way single line of communication.
Exactly.
Versus email, it just can go anywhere, right? So,
yeah, exactly. It can
absolutely.
be intercepted so easily.
It's still routed through servers.
Yeah.
I don't. Apparently, it is very secure though, using a fax as opposed to emailing.
Okay,
Or
if I may for a second, and I'm not refuting what they're doing, and everybody's entitled to do whatever the heck they want, but when a mail packet goes out, it's binary code, zeros and ones. It travels. It doesn't get hardwired from your residence to their office. It goes on the backbone, the OCR backbone of the internet. So their logic is skewed, but they're happy with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. That's their system. That's the way they do things. And, you know, it brings us back to how you communicate with clients. What I have found is if you already have a client, it's a little different than marketing, but you kind of take your cue from them. Mm-hmm. So if they start texting me a lot, then I text them. If they prefer to email, then I email. And everyone is different. I mean, for my clients, I get a mix of phone, email, text. Very occasionally they'll mail something to me, but a lot. And there's times when they text me things I would prefer them to email. But my feeling is I'm their service provider, so if they send me a text, then I just email. I forward it I email it to myself so that I've got that record that on my computer that I want. So I try and take the lead from them. What they like, what they prefer, unless it's really not working. That's how I communicate with them.
Good choices, Anne.
And that is the obvious way to go. And just getting back to that security thing, so really what we're saying is that fax is perceived as being more secure.
Yes,
Well,
you research it.
I would hope that the ministry and that the BC government has done some sort of investigation, and I either it's stats or whatever that they are hacked into a lot less than email, so that's why they do that.
And the other thing that I've noticed is from a fax perspective, it's much easier if something needs a signature to just sign it and throw it on the fax machine and send it. And from what I've discovered is that people don't know how to do something similar from their computer.
Oh, like to scan and attach.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, I learned how to do this years ago. I made a JPEG of my signature. I pull it in onto a document and then save it as a PDF and send it. So that it can't be it arrives at the other end the same way as a fax would. But most people don't know how to do that.
I'm going to be like a German Shepherd with a Frisbee. Let me ask you this. How many people, when they get faxes, they go over to DocuSign or HelloSign and use a drag and drop method of putting their stored signatures on that document that slips out in through the internet and goes back to that guy's fax machine?
Nobody that I know of.
Nobody in BC uses DocuSign or HelloSign?
I don't either.
No.
There's a holdout.
Yeah, I print the document, sign it, scan it, send it back.
Okay.
So that's a website, is it, Carlo? DocuSign?
Okay. There are a number of automated digital fax services, one of which is DocuSign. Now, and to that end, the beauty of something with DocuSign, as a paid subscriber, you are authenticated and it is sealed. And it's using an encryption system. Okay, it's on a fee basis. It's also a free basis. You have a complete inventory of all your documents, particularly in the real estate industry. It works well because all those
they do a lot of that.
Codified. So you started out a decade ago with email to fax and fax to email. Where you got a TIFF file. And you, as you said so well, Lolan, you drag and drop the JPEG onto that file and made 2 layers into one, and you had a signed document. Just for humor, in the early 80s, I bought my first fax machine. It cost me $10,000. It was the sign of the size of a photocopier. A small office photocopier. And the deal was I was doing a lot of business in the UK, and they wanted what they call wet signatures. So the rep is setting me up. I'm standing there. Oh, by the way, the humor in this is constantly using DHL at $600 a pop, 2 ways, was driving me nuts. So I go out and I invest in this Panasonic fax machine. And the rep
is called a Mojo back then. Called it a Mojo. Isn't that what they used to call it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm standing there, the rep and he sends it to a merchant bank in the UK, and all of a sudden we get coming back. And I said, wow, 0 to 60 in a sub-minute at $10,000 a pop. I love it. Yes, let's go.
Okay, so we've established that security can be a big issue for some people.
I don't know about the Canadian government, but some of the government's offices in the United States are being hacked, and they're not telling you, and some of them are telling you. You know, it's kind of like STDs. People have them, they just don't talk about them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they do tell you here, because we definitely had instances where they have reported that things have been accessed, especially actually health numbers. That's been reported when it's happened. I mean, you don't know if they aren't reporting it because you would have no way of knowing.
You don't know that you don't know.
Exactly, exactly. But they have reported. So
I wanted to chime in on what Lalan was mentioning in the beginning about kind of having troubles to determining, really what is the preferred method of communications for potential clients, and I think it brings up a couple of questions, or at least, in my opinion, some thoughts. It really does depend on the sales funnel, like where your prospect is within the sales funnel.
Yeah.
Let's assume it's a cold lead. Let's say it's just someone that you've never contacted. You've somehow acquired the person's contact information through a legitimate way, whether it's exchanging emails or cards or whatever. I find, like, when it comes to a cold lead, email works to a certain extent, but as a little side note, I really do think it does depend on their preferred method, like what they like. So it's a real hit or miss. And there's a couple of ways to alleviate that. So let's say someone contacts you through your contact form. I have a client that I just finished a new site for, and one of the things that I like to put in is a drop-down that says preferred method of contact. So that way, when they contact you, you are giving them the ball to say, okay, well, how do you want me to call you? How do you want me to contact you? Do you want me to email you or call you, right? Or even come by in some cases. And that seems to work really, really well. Then that way, you have that kind of the baseline in terms of how you can communicate with that particular client. Now, let's say you don't have that, and let's say you're reaching out, you're trying to market to new clients and prospects. Well, what I used to do is, and it still works to this day, I haven't done it in a while, I haven't needed to, but for cold prospects, I used to write letters. I used to type them out on the computer, print them out, hand sign them, and then the envelope, I would handwrite the address. And I found by handwriting the address on the envelope, that gets through the gatekeeper, as to, like, cold solicited mail spam, snail mail spam. So that's just one method, right? And I think, before you reach out to any kind of prospect, you got to feel them out in terms of how they like to communicate. And I think one of the easiest ways is to see how they are advertising, how they want to be contacted. So if they have a website and they say, oh, send us an email for a quote, then that usually means they're comfortable using email. Or if it says, give us a call for a free quote, right? Then obviously maybe think about going there or calling them, right? So let's say you're uncomfortable with calling them. I found that one of the really greatest ways to see if they're interested in search engine marketing or marketing services is call and inquire about their service. And so, let's say it's a dentist, right? And you call them and you say, hey, listen, I just moved to the area and I'm just kind of wondering, do you provide denture cleaning? I don't know, like, just shot in the dark here. And they say, oh yeah, sure, we provide this service, that's great. You say, oh, okay, that's awesome. Do you have a website that I can check out just to learn a little bit more about your business? And that's usually when they say, oh yeah, we have a website. Oh, but it hasn't been updated. This and that. My brother did it. And all this. And then they just kind of expel this whole life story as to what this website is about. And that's when you usually kind of go, oh, okay, that's great. And you say, oh, and one of the reasons why is because I do marketing. So and I've done that a couple times and it's actually worked. I've actually ended up getting leads. So, like in Anne's case, you could be inquiring about, let's say, I don't know, new hairstylist or something, right? He says, oh, okay, yeah, what are your charges? Okay, does that include GST or PST? Oh, well, we don't charge GST. Okay, why? So then they can be your client, and you can tell them how to teach, add GST to their business and stuff. So, it's fishy.
Yeah. And it is tricky, as you say, and you need to use, I guess I would say, our creativity in terms of how to connect with prospects, cold or warm. But I'm still sort of curious. You go to a networking event, and a few people exchange business cards, and so, if you send not a marketing call, but just or an email, not a marketing one, but how would you like to get together, or it was nice to meet you, or whatever, and there's just no reaction whatsoever. So as I've been thinking about that and looking at my own email behavior, I noticed that. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time to stay on top of my inbox. And some of the people that I work with in terms of trying to figure out how to make their systems more efficient, I get to look and see how they manage their inbox. And for the most part, there is no management whatsoever. Their inbox has got thousands. And so, the minute something drops in and it goes to the next page, you have no hope that person has no hope to ever see it. So I really am questioning this whole concept that email is the preferred way to connect with people, because they don't manage their email, their inbox, for the most part. So that's one of the pieces that has occurred to me. So then something else that I do when I come home with a mitt full of cards, I go to various social networks to see whether they're there. And quite often they are on LinkedIn or they are somewhere. And then there are other cases where they're not anywhere. And then when you look at their email address, quite often, if they're using a Hotmail address, they quite likely don't have a web page either. So to some degree, it's investigation, but it's a one-on-one investigation. So if you're looking at these business cards that you got, you might try one way and see what happens. If you don't get a response, then I guess, as somebody else said, it's a matter of trying another way to see whether it works or not. And boy, oh boy, this is very time-consuming work.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I think Jay's method works well is because when he contacts someone and they start talking about their website, oh, it hasn't been updated. No, that you've got your client in the pain area.
Yes.
They are very aware of the fact that something is not going well, and you say to them, oh, well, I can help you with that. They're way more responsive. So when I go to networking, I'm waiting for I'm chatting with people, I'm talking to people, and unless they express that they have a problem with their bookkeeping, with their finances, with how that's working, I don't contact them. Now, I'm not looking for as many clients, and mine's quite specific, but the big thing, I think, is if they can start talking about what their problem is that you can solve, mm-hmm. They are far more interested in what you have to say.
Oh, yeah.
And then, then it's effective. So mm-hmm. I think you gather a bunch of cards at networking, and if they're not aware that they have a problem, they don't care if you email them.
No. I I set it on something. I'm getting an echo, and I think it might be you.
Oh, okay.
Can you try muting? Aha. Okay. I sat on a hangout yesterday, I think it was, and there is somebody who has developed a new software. I haven't figured out how it works, but it's a software that it appears it goes onto your website in some way, and it allows the client to do a self-assessment of whatever, and it's a way for them to determine whether they have a need for what you do or not.
The problem with that software, there's a big leap of logic in that software. There are a number of people hawking that software.
Mhm.
Unless your website is designed to match their search profiling,
Mhm.
you're going to find a whole bunch of errors. But then you go to the next service, you find less or more errors. Okay?
Mhm.
Particularly when you're dealing with plugin-driven websites, content management systems. There's so many different plugins that it confuses the hell out of them. So if the vendor of that software is specific to Joomla or specific to WordPress, then it's going to find all kinds of errors, and the problem you're going to face is your client's going to say, well, I went down to Bob's and he said, no, that's not, there's nothing wrong with those. Your headers are right, your titles are right, blah, blah, blah. You're going to look like a dummy. My 2 cents.
Well, I mean, this particular site there or person was talking about a software, but I was thinking, it just made me think a little bit more about even how to design my own website from that perspective. Whether that person maybe when they arrived there, if there were a page there that just allows them to answer in their own mind the questions posed there related to what I do. That might be something to think about. It's just something to think about at this stage of the game. But I guess the whole idea behind it is self-selection or self.
Lowland, you could look at, this is going off topic a little bit, but you could look at services that offer you what's called a heat map. The heat map will show you where people are on your website. Right. Where they spend. If you start back at Google Analytics and you check your bounce rates. If your bounce rates are below or way too high, either they got the information. Okay, the misnomer about bounce rates is unless you're doing a product, when they come to a website that identifies, okay, lowland.com is really a website. It's not coming here soon, and they're happy. They move on, okay, because everybody thinks that they can search the internet better than everybody else. So you send them an email, they back scrape your email address, and they put the domain on the browser. Oh, okay, there she is. All right.
Yeah.
Or you've got one of these pages that are 9 feet long. It's called the squeeze page.
Yes.
And it's like they're out of here because, as Ann pointed out, and I like to say, we like to shop. We eventually buy. We don't like being sold through.
Yeah.
And that's why your friend said, your contact said that she thinks it's an invasion when people try to do things. So the heat map in your case will show you what part of your website is popular.
Yeah.
Run it for 90 days. You take a subscription. There's a freebie service. There's about 8 or 9 different services that offer those.
Okay.
And so you will be able to see what part they're interested in, and then you can build out from there. That's the best way to do it. As relates to auditing yourself, it's pretty easy to do if you go back to the Saturday morning Smarties. Uh, what's her name? Molly
Youngblood.
Young, yeah,
Yeah.
and Richard Rock did a great piece that gave you links to how to do those audits, and it's a manual transaction for yourself,
Mhm.
but you can do it. I mean, if you can do what you do here, you can do that.
Yeah, right.
And so they're great instructions that they offer you, and gives you peace of mind.
Right. Was that a recent hangout that they did,
Yeah,
Carolyn?
you just go back. I think it's maybe 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it
I
has.
usually watch the Saturday morning Smarties, but
Yeah,
I don't remember that one.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably one you missed. I think it's 3 weeks back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks back. But they offered some excellent links.
Mhm.
They offered a link about what to ask a SEO guy, but
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that was a
Oh,
far.
then I think I might have.
Okay, then look
That
the link
piece I
again.
remember. Yeah.
Okay, for me as a consultant, if someone handed me a 250 question, I say, tell you what, how about we don't do business together? Because I'm not about to teach you what to do for free.
Well, yeah. But as I get back to the whole idea of prospects and how to connect with prospects, etc. And what hits me is something Jay said was, it depends on your sales funnel, what you offer first, and then you just have to go from there.
Okay,
I did run into somebody who wrote something, and it wasn't very well developed, but I ran into somebody who said, okay, so you've got a list, and for me, I have a MailChimp list. And the question was, what do you know about the people on that list? And I suddenly said to myself, absolutely nothing. And they're the ones that are on my list all the time. So the next question in my mind is, what do I do about that? Now,
what I didn't hear you say, okay, what I did hear you say when you're talking about processing leads is the use of a phone.
yeah,
Particularly when you have a business card, you have a warm suspect. That is to say,
say again, Carl, I think you froze.
okay, when you have a business card that you picked up personally
Yeah,
at a networking event, you have a warm
yeah,
suspect as
yeah,
opposed to a cold call.
yeah,
This is Lolan. Hi, we met at the mixer. Didn't get a chance to speak yet. Thought you're a hell of a nice gal. I
yeah.
wonder if you got a few minutes. I don't have to teach you to do that part. Okay?
No.
There's an expression here in Vegas that they say among the casino owners, whatever. It's like, if you don't care what the answer is, send them an email. If you do care, go see them. And to that end, you also have to be aware of, be careful that you don't know if somebody's blocked you on a feed. For example, not that you do, but if you're sending a plethora of emails,
yeah,
they're just bouncing off the walls. It's like, you just turn them, you put them on mute on the G Plus or on the Facebook page, and so you're saying to yourself, oh, it must have went into their spam filters. No, we just don't want to pay attention to you.
Right.
But in summary, as I was thinking about the original question, I think what Ann offered and you offered and Jay offered, if you step back and you say, analytically, which is converting the best for me, and that's your answer.
Yeah.
Is it email? Is it text? Is it phone calls? Is it face to face over a cup of coffee, a cup of tea? I think that would make the most, particularly in the market. I don't think you want to be working 50, 60 miles out of your town, do you?
Well, I can, and I do. I have clients that are not even in this province.
Okay.
But those are people who have connected with me online in some way.
Right. All right. Then let me suggest this. If you look at your chimp list as you're analyzing, as you're self-auditing, who those people are, they're just not names that you filled in. and you can fill it in. Also, look at the zip codes and see how far they are from you.
Yeah.
And that will and if that number is greater than the people 50, 60 miles away, that it tells you your practice
Yes.
is developing in that environment.
Yeah.
And then you break it down to cup of tea, phone call,
Yeah.
email, right,
Yeah.
or a handwritten letter, which is,
Yeah.
it's always a winner, as Jay pointed out. It's always a winner because it has a better chance of survival than a mailing label.
Well, and there is an organization, what's it called, Send Out Cards, that was very popular for a while, and I actually used that for a while until I suddenly realized I do these business card audits every once in a while, and I again realized that nobody puts an address on their business cards anymore. So then, if they don't have a website, it's really very, very, very interesting. And I want to say hi to Nathan, and he's saying, "Sorry, missed the show. Hope you're all well." And I think you're referring to Send Out Cards. Yes, they are. And I was amazed. I spoke to somebody who works in Send Out Cards. And I mentioned to her that most business cards do not have an address, and she said, "Well, phone them and ask them what their address is."
Absolutely, sure, I would.
And then I thought, well, then it sort of removes the need for the send out card altogether. You got to phone them.
I've run into that. I was doing essentially a mail blast trying to interest some local people, and I went by and I picked up the address from the businesses, right? And I picked it off the list, and they don't get mail there.
Mailboxes, etc.
I got about out of 100 letters, I probably got 10 back that said
address unknown. Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't say address unknown. It said not deliverable.
Oh.
Maybe it's a stamp they bought, Craig. Maybe it's a rubber stamp they bought.
No, it was from the mail. It was from the U.S. Post.
Got to steam off those stamps and reuse them if you can.
All right.
There you go.
So we've been here for a little while, but we still have a few minutes more. Nathan, just to catch you up, we've been just talking about how do we find the preferred method of communication with especially prospects. We've already covered the fact that if they're clients or they're people that we're working with, we let them create the lead. That was Ann's piece. If they seem to prefer to text, then that's where I go. So you let the person do that. But when you're trying to connect with prospects, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. And so we've been tossing around the idea of looking at what we know is their demographic. That could give us a clue, but not all of us fit the demographic. If you look at their business card or you look at their website or whatever, you might get some clues. But I was stating that after watching my own management of my inbox, I'm coming to the conclusion that email is perhaps not the preferred way.
Most of us have become email blind.
Yeah, because people don't manage their inbox, and so then we get to other ways, and how do we do that? So it's not an easy way, but just to summarize a little bit, the video that I watched this morning with Mark Trapphagen and Eric Inge, they were saying that we need to be 10 times better than anybody else, and they were saying that it's all going to be about personalization. So regardless of how we find a way to communicate with people, it does have to be almost on a one-on-one basis. So that it really comes back to the fact that prospecting and marketing are just never going to be the same again. And so if it comes down to personalization, yeah, maybe we are back to the phone. However, I have friends who say if they get a call on their phone, if they don't recognize it, they don't answer it.
Sure.
So it gets back to that whole security thing and that whole idea that nobody wants to be sold to.
It gets to the point where the filters are so strong that it's almost impossible to break through, even when you're doing business.
Yeah.
Even when you want to do business.
Yes. Yeah. So now this looks like Nathan. He has said maybe I could just put that up on the screen. Why don't I do that? So another very important topic if you're using email are highly effective headlines. Reading John Morrow's Headline Hacks is a great start. Well, that's certainly a good point. A very good point to think about. So if we are sending an email, what do we do?
Copywriting is one of... Sorry, go ahead.
No, please, Nathan.
Copywriting is one of the most important things that business people need to learn. A lot of us, we use ways of communicating that we think will be good or appropriate, but they aren't necessarily to our best advantage. If we learn certain techniques of copywriting, such as writing headlines, which is, if you want your message read in copywriting, 80 to 90% of your effort should be on your headline and not on your copy, because if they don't get past your headline, they're not going to read your copy. And so this is what I've been working on. Recently, I've been promoting an interviewing series, and I've been approaching people that I know and people who are acquaintances, and my results have actually been quite good. But part of the thing, like Loeland, you and me, and we were talking about this the last time around, is being really patient with people when you send out a message, and to give the room, because there's so many things that can possibly go wrong. Like, I've been using forms on sites, I've been using email, and my results have been great. But part of it, people are writing back to me and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your message. It wound up in my spam folder," and stuff like that. But I've been getting some really good results. I've got like 6 interviews lined up as a result of what I started just a short time ago. And people coming on in different ways. I've been doing blabs rather than hangouts because I find them easier to work with. But even so, the way that you write your headlines, the way that you engage with people, is to write something that is really going to turn their heads. And the more that you can focus on that, the better chance you get of being seen and paid attention to in somebody's email box.
That's a very good point, Nathan. And it raises, for me, way back 100 years ago when I worked for government, we spent a lot of time talking about the way to formulate your email to somebody so that they know what to do with it. So in that case, I remember we were instructed to put a topic, and then put requires reply by such and such a date, right in the subject line. Or here is the topic for information only. And so inside an institution, that seemed to work extremely well. So it just raises in my mind, I wonder what would happen if I sent something to a prospect and actually said requires a reply. I wonder what would happen. I think I'll experiment.
Nobody will
If,
die.
if you really want to get some examples of some really controversial email topics, sign up to the email list of Frank Kern, who's a really well-known online marketer, and he uses all sorts of interesting little headlines. I'm going to see if I can find a couple.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how to spell his surname.
Kern.
Kern. Okay.
Yeah, but he'll come up with some. I'm just trying to think of what he's done. Like, okay, like an example of one that I just got a couple of days ago. It says Nathan, and then the big and in big letters important. It's like, oh, really? And another one that I'm just looking at, it says, Nathan, where's the money going to come from this year? What?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, making a study of headlines can really, really help you a lot in getting people to pay attention to you in their inbox. And like I said, I've had some really great results from what I've been doing as of late.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I don't recall anything particular in there. I might say in the headline, I want to interview you, or something like that. I forget exactly what I've been doing, but it's been getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
But the other big part of it, like I said to you last week, is being patient with people. I just got an email from somebody today that I emailed, I think, last Thursday about appearing. Now, there's one really cool tool that you can get for Gmail. Somebody sent it to me the other day. I'm just trying to see if I can find it. What it will do, oh, here it is. It is called GoToMailTrack, or MailTrack it's called. And you can install it in Gmail if you've got it, and it tracks when people open your email.
Oh.
Really useful tool.
Right on. Well, and I mean, as I think about that and observe my own behavior when it comes to email, I mean, my goal is to keep an empty inbox. That's what my goal is.
Sure.
But
clean plate person, huh?
Pardon?
You're a clean plate person.
Well, and the reason, I mean, one of and this is about a couple of things. One of them is that I've learned how to use the search in Gmail very effectively, so I don't feel the need to keep everything hanging around. So that's one piece, but I do notice that it takes a huge amount of time and work to keep the inbox empty. So now I've kind of adjusted that a little bit, where at least it's no more than one page. Because if things roll onto the next page,
to July,
yeah, right, then it's unlikely that I'm going to see it, and then it's gone. And then the other thing is I mean, there are lots of things that I've subscribed to that I have an interest in. And want to follow to some degree, but I don't always have the time. And so I really have to say to myself, oh, I'm so far behind on these newsletters that have come out from so-and-so, I'm just never going to catch up, so delete. It's the only way to go.
Sure.
So we have to think about how we manage and do it so that it works for us. But
it works for me. That's what I always do with yours.
Delete.
I'm only kidding you.
I know you are.
But coming back to opening tracking, you can buy a service or you can do it yourself. And the best way to do it yourself is use Google Analytics and a URL shortener that shows you opens, and insert what's known as the classic white dot in your email. That is something the size of a dot appears that it's embedded into your email, connected to a link to an email, to a URL shortener, connected to your Google Analytics. It's absolutely free. You could do it yourself. You don't have to pay for description. That's really what those companies are selling. They're doing it for you with the dialog boxes.
Man,
but
I wish
if you Google it, you'll find the instructions how to do it.
That's so cool.
Do you have those instructions?
No, I've got them in memory, but you can Google them and you'll get them.
Okay.
It's just how do I track my emails with a image file? Okay, that image file could be the classic marketing white dot, and that's why when we move from text email to HTML email, you could then do that. But you'll find pages of information how to do that. You, as digital marketers, you'd be absolutely amazed what Google Analytics will do for you. You can just analyze everything to what's empty in my refrigerator, but as long as there's a link to it.
Right. Oh, that sounds like it's worth following up on.
Yeah,
Thank you, Craig. Now, I'm sorry, Carlo. I was thinking, Craig. I heard you starting to say something, Craig, and
I was trying to identify what it was. If I search for how to track email with a white dot,
okay. Look for the white. Yeah, look for, let's see, either the white image for tracking, or how to track email with an image. Yeah, try. Can you pull it up now? Can you type in how to track an email from an image, embedded image, and that should begin to give you a flavor for it.
okay, that is very worthwhile. Sort of following up on. All right.
Yes.
So, but it's your point, Nathan, and I take it that yes, we do need to be patient with people. We cannot actually expect to receive an instant reply because we all have different ways that we work.
And just to own that, that's one of my number one faults. And seriously, it is. And I own it. And what I've had to do, like I actually did it last week because I sent out a whole bunch of emails for this interview series and nobody responded to me right away. And I'm going, okay. And I have the mindset of really like communication's important and blah, blah, blah. But other people have their own style. They may not be on the computer. They may be off for the weekend. Like one of my friends, I saw the reason that he didn't respond to me is because I was getting his posts on Facebook. He was skiing in the Colorado Rockies. He's not going to be anywhere near his computer. Still haven't received a response from him, but I'm not surprised. And other people, like sometimes the email address I have for the person isn't correct. Like when I sent one, it bounced. And it's like, great, I got to find something else. But just looking at it going, okay, why didn't they respond? Oh, yeah. Well, my mind typically does when somebody doesn't respond right away is, oh, they're not interested and that's why I haven't heard from them. And that's a real BS statement that my mind does, which will trip me up every single time. And then when I inquire into it or look at it, go, wait a second, is this true? Do I know it's true? Yeah. And the answer is, of course, no. So then I start looking at it going, okay, well, what's going on here? Okay, well, maybe they're away. Maybe they're having lunch. So maybe they're not on the computer. Maybe, went to the spam folder and on and on and on. And so when I do that, it takes away this internal pressure, this internal need to have this happen immediately.
Yeah.
And
for us to not take it personally.
Absolutely. It's not personal. In a very important way, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Lolan, I'd like to answer a question that you asked. No, I'd like to respond to a statement you made about some people reject unknown phone numbers. On most of you on your contact form, you have a success submission message. It says thank you for your email, right? Okay. On that particular page, the thank you, you put down your phone number. You'll say, thank you. and something to the effect, if within the normal business hours, please, I will call you from number so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so within the next 15 minutes. And that will let them know if they went through the trouble, because I don't know how many of you monitor. You got this wonderful contact page, but for some reason, people phone more than they'll fill in a form. When we ask them all that information, give it, how, the question is, are you still beating your wife? So the idea is when that screen pops up and it puts down, as I just said, and you're alerting them to that, that's your number, because it's all over your webpage anyway.
Yes.
And that makes it easier, because I've been in places where the phone rings over lunch and someone says, forget it. It's one of those Google first placers. It's a robocall.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because it's an unknown number. And okay, let's say here in Nevada, you're getting a call from San Diego, which is it's funny, Vegas was the epicenter for call centers. But now for some reason, Toronto and San Francisco seem to be. Okay. And so it's like, oh, it's a Google first placers. And so they just blow them off. And also a lot of people have call control in one form or the other. Call control on a cell phone matches a database where people complained. And when your number comes up, you just blow it off. So I don't want a trip to Disneyland. I don't want a free boat ride to the Bahamas. Just leave me alone. We can guard ourselves much better on our cell phones than we could on our home phones.
That's true. But here's something that some people may not be aware of. This Google First thing that you're talking about, Carlo. I'm very much aware that we can use Google Hangouts to make a phone call out into the regular phone system. But when you do that, I know that in the States you can apply for a specific Google phone number so that you could put that somewhere. But in Canada, we don't have access to that. When I've tried numerous times to get that, I always get the message that it's not available in Canada.
Okay, there's a company called DIDWW. And there's all kinds of affiliates connected. I run lines into, I run lines into different countries for different businesses. And they come back to my cell phone. And they cost me about $8 a month each, plus the phone time. When you buy it from a reseller, they'll sell it to you for $29.95. You can buy numbers in your area. Okay, the number that you post on your website should be your business number.
Yeah.
If it's anything less than, not you, but if anything less than a trick number, you run into trouble. So the number that you're using, whether you're buying a group of numbers in your area code, because you can use them in AdWords. Sometimes I do AdWords marketing. You can do either social media. Social media may not work for you. I just feel there's more people on social media trying to sell me stuff that nobody can hear when I'm trying to sell something. So I just, Jay put it so well. It's like driving by a wreck, and you're trying to Google the wreck, and somebody's putting advertisements in your windshield, so you can't see the wreck.
You're right.
So by using those in AdWords, and I invite you, if you're willing to spend $10 a month and up, in your, you can learn AdWords. Google's long on help. Google your AdWords campaigns. Yeah. They'll assign a number to it for the duration of it. You can use them on landing pages, wherever, and that's how you can circumvent that problem.
Well, I do know that. I was a Skype customer a long time ago, and the neat thing about Skype, and I still use it quite often to make phone calls out into the phone system, because you can go into Skype and and choose what you want to show up in people's call display.
Yes. And if it is if they're using call what's the application I have here? It's call something or other. Call control. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're using call control, it will come back immediately and say it's a bogus number.
Yeah.
All right. And the Skype is my personal take on Skype. I refuse to use Skype for business because when you're in a business conversation and you're getting like that, it's like they see how cheap you are.
Yeah.
They really don't want to do business with you. You know,
Right.
in 1979, I got my first mobile phone, got my first car phone, and it was a King's Rancher monthly. And my friend said, "You're crazy for paying that kind of money. Why don't you just get out and make a phone call?" If you can't use that as a business tool and make money with it, then there's no sense of having it.
Yeah.
The same thing, you know. We just let me finish. We all make ransom every month for our cell phones because everything is connected to our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Cell phone companies like that, and so you know it's you got to keep it on. So that device is your business tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so be aware of how those tricky phone numbers. You may be saving money, but they're ignoring you because it says fake caller ID.
Oh, well, I've been I do in Skype. I do pay an annual fee so that it allows me to phone out into the regular phone system.
Here in the States, I get.
But the calls get dropped. Like they're not. It's not nearly as stable a system as calling on Google.
Absolutely.
That's my big thing is that I can't. So if I use the Google system, then there's a rolling bunch of numbers that Google assigns shows in people's call display. So it's you can't get one, and it's not recognizable to my caller. Like if I call in Skype, the people who know that who I am, they recognize that because it's the same each time. But with Google, it revolves. It's a different number every time. So then they don't answer. So the only way I can do that is to leave a message, and then they have to listen to the message and call me back.
Right.
It does bring up one other thing. I mean, I've been using Skype for a long time, but this thing about the number, I have a number on Skype.
Yeah.
A literal phone number, and when I call people, quite often they say, "Can I call you back at this number?" And it shows up my number exactly as it's supposed to be. Sometimes, though, and it hasn't happened for a very long time, is when I would call somebody and it would show up some very odd number that has nothing to do with me. But it's been a very long time since I've had that problem. Most of the time, people can see my number, they call me back.
Yeah.
So it seems to be okay that way.
Yeah. Well, what shows up for me is that my username in Google in Skype is wild8cat. So quite often that shows up in people's call display, and they know what it is.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I mean, what I keep getting is people who tell me, "Oh, I can see your number here, and it's this. Can I call you back?"
Yeah.
And it's fine. You know, it works just fine. So I was just a bit puzzled by what was going on. I thought, I wonder if you don't have a number.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a number.
That's probably what the problem is.
Yeah.
So the number does make a difference.
To do the same thing in Google rather than use the Skype thing, because the Skype phone calls are not as good quality.
Agreed.
And there's a tendency for them to drop.
I agree. Yeah, I've experienced both of those, and I've actually been wanting to get out of Skype. I had another Skype crash yet again this morning. It's like, God, there's got to be a better alternative than this. Without
Google works better, but that's the drawback.
But I thought you can buy a number for Google. I had heard that you could get a number that you could use all the time.
Well, you can if you're in the States.
It's not nice enough to post. Craig was nice enough to post the instructions.
Thank you, Craig. Shall I put that up on the screen just so that if somebody's listening?
You're welcome. The first one is for Wired, and it's an article about ugly. It's about people that are using the dot to track, and then the second one is a description of the Stack Overflow says this is how you do it.
Oh, okay. So there, I'm showing the wrong one. So just hang on. I will shift and go to the next one.
Yeah, the first one tells you how to protect yourself from people that are using it.
Okay. So here is the second one. It doesn't the whole thing is
truncated.
Doesn't show that it's truncated, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. For whatever reason.
Whoever wants to look at that will have to
go into the comments.
Yes, right. So we have really gone over this morning, and we've lost Jay and we've lost Ann, and but we're still here. So I think perhaps it's time for us to stop the broadcast. And I thank you all for an interesting conversation. I've walked away with a few really good ideas of things to try and experiment. And I think that's our main message, is that it's just going to take experimentation till we find something that works. And it may not work with everybody, and it may work with one person and not everybody. It's all about personalization these days, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, what Carlos had to say about the cell phone, I may wind up having to go through that route for some things, but I don't know. I mean, my phone number does show up on Skype, but I do agree with you that calls get dropped quite a bit, and it's really annoying.
So that's DIDWW, eh, Carlo?
Yeah, it's either DIDWW or WWDID, but
okay.
I've been using them since 2008. Since 2008, and I've got a bunch of lines that I use from different parts of the world, because I'm trying to make it easy for example, if I start a project in a certain area, not a digital project, but I also do financial consulting, and I will drop that line. Let's say I'm doing it in northern Mexico. I'll drop that line in that town in northern Mexico for the duration until I see whether it's a real deal or just, as they say in Spanish, puro paja, which is straw, okay, which most of them are. But I got to find out quickly because that's my job. I got to go and vet out a transaction and see if I can bring it in. So I use it that way. And then in certain cities, I use a permanent number, which is on my footer on my email on the financial side of the house. And you'll find it very useful. It's not expensive. If you log on, if you sign up with them, it's about $8 a month, where if you go to a reseller, it's $29 a month.
All right. Okay. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So I think it's time to sign off now. And I encourage anyone out there who is watching to join us another Tuesday and join in the conversation, and join the Being Your Own CEO community, so you get to see when everything happens. So this is Lowell Ann signing off for February the 9th.